Skytop MX. Hopefully I'm going to do the review on the Apex head today. This is for Spencer's memorial ride. The owner of the track passed away about 2 weeks ago. This was his track. Roxon's trained out here. Chad Reed's trained out here. Travis Pastrana helped Spencer get over the Skytop jump, that really huge step up way in the back. We'll get some rides in today. Skytop MX, there was too many people there on that memorial ride. I wasn't able to get the review in, just too much distractions and stuff. So we're here at Family 74 today. My wife's over here getting ready to ride. I'm going to do a preliminary ride on my YZ250 with my modified head that I modified myself. And then I'll come back and swap to the Apex head with the MX dome, and let's see how that does. Alright, that was the first ride on my personally modified head, that it has the same compression ratio as the 5UP head, which is 21.9 cc's or whatever, the way I measure them for reference. And but it has a squish band set at about 40 thousandths. So that's what the head that I'm currently using right now. And that's a pretty good setup. But I'm gonna go ahead and pop on the Apex head, the MX head, and put their suggested jetting in it too as well. So I'm gonna give it a fighting chance. So let me go and do that now. Alright, so here's the Apex head, the MX dome about to put on. Here's my modified head right here. It's a little dirty. I didn't bring any rags to wipe things up, unfortunately. I totally forgot. But this is my modified head. That's the Apex head. So we're gonna put the Apex head on now and see how she performs. As you can see, I got my bike all apart over here. So let me get that thing on. Okay, the Apex head is on with the MX dome. As soon as they put us back on the track, I'm gonna go out here and give it a test ride. Okay, I just did a test ride on Apex head with the MX Dome, and then my friend Josh right here, he just did a test ride. Give us your impression.
It's just, it just seems like it still needs more bottom end. The top end's good on it. It'd be, like I said, it'd be perfect for a high-speed MX. If the track is fast, but if you get a tight track or even through the woods, wouldn't recommend it. I'd do like an XC, the XC Dome. Right?
Well, you haven't tried the XC Dome,
well,
so you don't know.
Through what they say.
Yeah, maybe the Supercross Dome?
The Supercross is, I would go with the Supercross Dome if you're going to ride, you know, local tracks.
And right now he's riding the YZ250 with the stock head of 2021?
Yep, so 2021.
Okay.
No modifications besides FMF pipe silencer.
Okay, and a little bit after I put my head back on, I'm going to have you test ride my bike again if you don't mind.
Yep.
Sweet. All right, appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Back there, coming out of an inside corner.
Yep.
And then heading up to the jump, it just rolled on. You know. With
yeah.
You know, like mine is like you have to go into the corner second gear with it in the, you know, like with the gas on, and then as soon as you exit the corner, you're revved out so much, then you're like shifting to third.
Yeah.
With this one, as long as you keep the power up just a little bit, I can pull it in third.
Okay.
So and then the rest is the top end is just longer. The top end is way longer than that one.
You think it's
mine.
You think it's longer?
Yeah.
Okay. My impression was it wasn't that it was longer. It was that it was more robust when it got up there. Like
okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah. When I held yours pinned, it had that top end over rev.
Yeah,
saying it would reach it. It's just there wasn't much to play with, as far as power is concerned.
Right.
It got up there, but there was where that Apex head, it would go up there, but it actually had some power with it.
Right. Yeah. I'll go with that.
So yeah, I would say it's like a mild improvement over the stock head.
I would say exactly what Apex is saying.
Okay.
Like for motocross. I can't wait to try the SX.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I want.
I'm hoping someone will send me Apex head.
Well, it's going to be me. If you don't get it in the near future, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna put the Supercross Dome on that one.
Okay, you'll let me try it out on my bike I have? All right,
absolutely.
Sweet. Thanks, man. Yeah, so that was my take on it. Was because what I did is after I test rode the Apex head here with the MX Dome, I went ahead and took his bike for a ride, which, like he said, his bike is all stock except FMF pipe and shorty silencer, and I have a Pro Circuit pipe and shorty silencer, and it's all stock otherwise besides that and the head, so very similar. I took his bike out, and you know, it's typical your stock head from 2011 to 2022. It had decent bottom end. The mid was a little soft, and it revved out good, but and it had an over rev to it, but the over rev was kind of useless as far as using it for power. It's okay if you have to hold the gear just because you're getting close to a corner, you don't feel like upshifting, but as for actual power, the over rev on that stock head is not all that great. Where this Apex head, if you hold it and you get into the over rev, it does create some power up in the over rev, and it'll keep pulling up into it. So that's really the only improvement. The only difference I saw between this and the stock head is it seems to have a little more top end over rev power. It's not that it revs higher, it just has more power up there. The interesting thing too was, I would say this head also kind of hops into the upper power band a little bit firmer, has a little more hit when it comes into the upper power band. Kind of hard to explain, but I'm used to my head that kind of comes in a little earlier. So this one would come in a little bit later, and you almost think it's not going to come in, and out of nowhere it would come in, and the bike would do a nice little wheelie or whatever, and then it revved out good. It's a fun head, and I can definitely tell. I'm running 50/50 right now, a 110 leaded with pump fuel, and but I can tell with this head right here that you can totally get away with pump gas most likely. You should be able to. It seems like it would be pretty fuel friendly. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put my head back on and let him test out my head and see what he thinks about that. While editing this video, I sometimes notice that Josh calls my custom head a SX head, so try not to get confused with the Apex XS head, SX head, and my head, the custom head, that he sometimes calls a SX head, assuming because it has great low end. But here you go.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Yep. A lot more bottom end.
How's the top end?
The top end's still good. Top end's still good. It does fade out, but nowhere near stock. Like it's still got meat in the top end.
Okay.
So.
Would you say it has more top end in the stock, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about versus the Apex MX head?
Oh, there's no comparison. Like as far as bottom end, because the bottom end is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
That whatever you got there with that modification, with that smaller squish band.
Yep.
That's the way to go.
How about the top end MX head, the Apex MX versus this one?
The top end on the, I want to say the top end on the Apex has a little more on it.
A little more over rev?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And my impression was it had more over, maybe a little more over rev, but not really more power. Like this one revved hard all the way till
It's
just
kind of hard
rev.
to tell right now. The track is totally chewed, and there's some yahoos out there right
That's true. How about overall power? Like when
overall power, I go with that.
You go with this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I go with the, I guess that would be the SX.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, my own head.
Smaller squish.
Yeah, well, I think that I think the SX comes with the same squish band clearance. They just use a higher compression.
Okay.
So I'm guessing this one might be a little bit better than that one, but until we try them back to back, we won't know.
Which we will.
Yeah, we will.
Definitely will, because I'm getting one.
All right, sweet. Appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy.
Okay.
One more thing, the response was very noticeable on the modified head, the SX modified head.
How did it feel on the throttle?
Just instant, almost like a 4-stroke.
Nice.
You know, like instant throttle. Like as soon as I got on the bike, I noticed it. Cranked it up. I'm like, oh my god, you know, just instant.
Sweet.
So anyway,
see you, man. All right, on the Apex head, the MX Dome, I did check the squish band clearance. It's looking right at 50, like they advertised, and like I even guessed before I even looked at what they advertised. So you get 50. If you squeeze it real hard, you might be able to squeeze a 49 out of it. But man, yeah, so that's cool. There's a 48. So yeah, it's pretty much 50. Let me clarify, if you haven't watched my head mod video, all you do is use a piece of solder. You lay it across the top of the piston, and then you put the cylinder head back on, you crush it down, and then you can measure it with some digital mics or whatever. So that's how I got the squish band clearance. But yeah, it came out at 50 thousandths for that MX Apex Dome. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and CC these heads here to see what kind of volume they have, the combustion chamber, so that we know what, you know, generally if it's a higher compression or a low compression. As far as the Apex head, is it higher compression than the stock 2011 to 2022 5 MW head, or is it a lower compression, or is it the same? And also I'll be comparing it as well, not only the MX Dome but also the XC Dome. And I have a 5 UP head here, but this one's been modified, so I can't really go by that, but I do have notes on what these heads CC to. These are from the 2003 to 2010 heads, the higher compression head on the American model. I do have notes written down what these CC to, so I will know if this head is higher or lower in compression ratio than the 2003 to 2010 head. So let me go ahead and get this plexiglass set up right here, put some grease around these lips, and start CCing these things and see what I come up with. I just put a very slight ring. If you watch my head modification video, I showed how I CC these heads, but just quick, you know, recap. I just put a strip of grease around the lip here. Let me clean that out a little bit better. That allows it to seal on the plexiglass when I bolt the head down to the plexiglass, so when we pour water into it, it doesn't drip out. All right, there we go. Let me go ahead and get that on the plexiglass. Okay, on the stock 2011 to 2022 head, the 5 MW. It looks like I'm getting 22.5 cc's on this. Now, for reference reasons, I'm doing it from the spark plug hole. I just fill up the hole and cover. I just fill up this whole thing with water, and until it just reaches the top of the spark plug hole. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Some people choose to put a spark plug in it and drill a hole back here and do it that way, but for me, I find it's just easier to do it this way as far as getting all the air bubbles out, because when you do it upside down, it becomes a little difficult to kind of work all the air bubbles out. But when it's like this, I can just put my finger over it and hold it up and tap them or whatever and get them out. So this head, 2011 to 2022, is 22.5 cc's, you know, with the spark plug removed all the way to the very top. So that's going to be our reference for that one. I'll write that down, and next I will be doing the MX dome here on the Apex head. So let's see what that measures up. I real quickly went back to my notes, and I guess my notes were correct even for the 2018 head, which is one I just measured. I had at 22.5 cc, so which is what I just got out of it. So the 06 head stock with the is just under 22 cc's, so it's like 21.9 cc's. But let me measure it. Let me measure the Apex head and see what we have, and we'll see where it compares to these. Well, I was actually surprised to see that this is actually even a lower compression ratio than the stock 11 to 2022 head. This one measures at 22.75 cc's. So that's going to be a little bit of a lower compression ratio on the MX dome here. That's surprising. I thought they would at least match the lower compression stock head of the 2011 to 2022, but it appears like they decided to go a hair bit lower. Again, I do believe what they're trying to do with this head is to give you a better squish band clearance, a tighter squish band clearance, but also make it pump gas friendly. I honestly believe that's what they're looking to do with this head. But let me go ahead and now test the XC dome of this, the Woods model. I actually expect this one to be a little bit of a higher compression ratio, just to kind of bump up the bottom end for when you're off road. But let's see. Well, holy cow, guys, this what do they call it, the XC head, is actually even a lower compression ratio. This one's measuring 23 cc's. So just a quick recap. The 5 UP head from 03 to 2010, that's measuring at, let me look at my notes again here, because my memory is, just under 22 cc's, so about 21.9 cc's is what this measures at. Again, I'm measuring it from with plexiglass from the top of the spark plug, filling it with water right up to the top of the spark plug opening right here. So that's my, if you try this at home and you want to compare, that's how if you want to compare to mine, that's what I'm using, or that's how I'm doing that. So we have a 21.9 for the 03 to 2010 5 UP head, and then for the stock 2011 to 2022 head, the 5 MW, this one measures 22.5 cc's. And then the XC dome for the Apex head, we got a we got a, what was it again? That's right, a 22.75. And then this one is at 23 cc's, the XC head, the off-road head. So that's what these are measuring at. I think it's kind of important to add that as I was looking at Apex's website, they do say that all three of their domes are designed to run on pump gas, and that they can do accommodations for requests for race field domes or for those at high altitude. So it does sound like you can probably send them the specs that you're looking for. Like, let's say you want a 40,000 or maybe even a 30,000 squish band clearance and the compression ratio that you're looking for, and that they will custom put together a dome for. All right, back in the shop, so let's talk about these a little bit. The Apex head has a squish band clearance of 50 thousandths, and the cc's are 22.75 measured the way I measured it earlier in the video. The 5MW, which is 2011 to 2022 in America and 2003 to 2022 and for the European model, has a squish band clearance of 84 thousandths and the CCs are 22.50. The 5UP head, which is the American model from 2003 to 2010, has a squish band clearance of 64 thousandths and the CCs are 21.90. Then my custom head that was used in the review has a squish band clearance of 40 thousandths with a CC of 21.9. So the CCs, I kept the CCs in that head the same as of the 5UP head. All I really did was just get the squish band clearance down. In my experience, the real horsepower gain seems to come with any head, seems to come with the squish band clearance. So you can look at these heads, and the ones that have the lower number, the tighter squish band clearance, like this one's going to make the most power with all else things being equal. And like this one right here should make the least amount of power as far as overall peak power. The compression ratio, the CCs here, the compression ratio is what dictates is it going to make more bottom end or top end? Where's that power going to be found? And usually the higher compression ratio, which is the lower number, will be found in the lower end, and then the less C or the more CCs or the lower compression ratio will favor more of a top end or at least over rev. However, as I mentioned in my head mod video, the trade-off is not always an even trade-off. When you start lowering the compression ratio to gain top end over rev, you lose more bottom end for the trade-off of top end. You're going to lose more bottom end and you'll gain some top end, but it's not an equal trade-off. So, you know, overall you'll actually weaken the motor overall if you consider the big picture from the very bottom to the very top as you lower the compression ratio. But it does make fuel requirements a little easier if you're stuck running pump gas or you're mixing your fuel. So you always got to consider that. So what I did to make things a little easier to explain on this comparison is I made my own dyno graph. Yeah, that's right. It's not scientific here or anything. It's just, you know, the best way to explain it. Of course, I got Texas coming in. But the green head, the green line is my head. Let me get a better angle of this. Alright, so the green dyno graph here is my head that I modified myself. The yellow dyno graph is the stock 5MW head from 2011 to 2022, and the white dyno graph is the Apex head with the MX dome. So you can see here that on my dyno graph, I illustrated it here showing that the power comes on real early, strong, ramps up quick, and that's, if you watch the review, that's what Josh was feeling in it. And that's because obviously not only is the compression ratio at a good compression ratio, but and the squish band is tighter too, so the squish band being at 40 thousandths. Then you have the stock head, the yellow one from 2011 to 2022 5MW head, and that one makes a little more low end, as you can see right here, a little more low end than the Apex head, because it does have a slightly, ever so slightly higher compression ratio. But once it gets up into the power, this flat spot right here, I'm considering that the power band, where it jumps into its full power all the way across. The power band's a little less because the squish band clearance is a little bit greater at 84 thousandths versus, like, if we're comparing it to the white one here, which is the Apex head, the yellow and white lines, we're comparing it. The Apex head has a squish band of 50 thousandths and the 5MW has a squish band clearance of 84. So the Apex head makes a little more top end power, power band power, once you're in the meat of the power, than the stock head. Now the sharp rise in power you got right here, that's the hit. I'm trying to illustrate the hit that I felt, because it would go from having less, bottom and bottom mid than the other two heads, and then just boom, jump right into its power band. And so that's that sharp rise. And then once you get to the top end, they all seem to start losing power at the same RPMs. The difference is how they extend that last little bit of RPMs, where the white line here, that's the apex head. It really extends the over rev. You can see it right here. It has a little more power going into the over rev, and then it dips down. Also, the 5MW head, it extends the over rev pretty well too. You can see both of these are higher than the green one, which is my head. So they both have a little more over rev, and that's because of the lower compression ratio. It kind of opens that up, but they sacrifice that bottom end right here to gain a little bit of over rev. And then you see mine, it drops down pretty sharply in the over rev. But it doesn't feel like that when I ride the bike, because it starts so much earlier up here with so much more just girth. I mean, it comes in, it's already climbing in high and hard. It's already reaching these two other heads at a much earlier RPM. And so basically the overall power band is just longer on my custom head versus these two. These two have about the same length of a power band, except the apex head has a little more over rev at the end and it actually pulls through some of the over rev with some power, where the stock 5MW head, it has that over rev, but there's not a lot of power in that over rev. The yellow line here, there's just not a lot of power in it. And with that, so if the motor has any kind of load, it's just not gonna get past this point right here. And let me get something to point at here. Here you go. So it's just not the stock 5MW head from 2022. If there's any kind of load on the motor, it will just hang right here instead of extending through. Where the apex head will extend through even though it's got a load, because even though it's just over rev and the horsepower is falling, but it still has more than the stock head, so even under load it will pull through it and you feel that extended over rev. You don't really feel it with the 5MW head unless there's no load on the motor, but if there's a load you're not going to feel it. Where my custom head, like I said, it just kind of drops off right here, but it pulls so hard from up right about here all the way up through here that you don't really feel, I mean, you can tell that it doesn't have quite as much overhead, but you don't complain about it at all because the power band was so broad that and it's pulling so good and so hard. And now I add another head to the dyno graph here, my little custom dyno graph, and that's the 2003 to 2010 5UP American model head. That's the blue, purple, whatever you call. If you look closely here, you'll see that my little dyno graph here. Oh man, Texas keep coming in. You'll see that it makes a little less bottom end. It starts, makes a little less bottom end right. Let me get the pointer here. Right here than my modified head, but it actually kind of meets it right at the peak of it, right at the beginning of the power band. They kind of meet up, but then my head will keep making more power. But the power band comes in at about the same RPMs. And then as far as peak power right here going through the power band, it's somewhere in between the two heads of the apex and the stock 2011 to 2022 5MW head. It's right in the middle of them. So it makes more power than the 5MW head, but less power than the apex head with the MX dome. And the reason being, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, is the squish band clearance. That head in stock form comes with 64 thousandths. The 5MW head right here from 2011 to 2022 is 84 thousandths, and the apex head is at 50 thousandths. So that is in the middle of these two. So it makes about right in the middle of the power between them two. And then as far as top end, it kind of signs off just like my modified head, since they both have the same compression ratio. It starts dropping at the same time, although it drops a little bit quicker because it's making less power, but it meets up perfectly and it just falls all the way down as my modified head, because again the compression ratio is going to dictate how the over rev is and how the bottom end is. Higher compression ratio will ramp this up down here, and lower compression ratio will extend your over rev back here. So here's my take on these heads as far as which one you should choose, with these four heads that I pretty much have laid out here. I mean, I have three here, but we're speaking about four heads. In my opinion, this 5MW head is really not good for much of anything except for getting away with pump gas. You know, it's really not a good head in my opinion, except for getting away with pump gas, and it barely does that, but it does that. The Apex head with the MX dome, in my opinion, what it's good at doing is giving you a little boost of power, or should I say overall power, because it does make a little bit overall power. Remember, the Apex head is the white one in the dyno graph there, my little funny dyno graph. So it does make that, and it makes a little bit stronger over rev than all the other heads. So, and because it has a slightly lower compression ratio, remember it's 22.75 cc's versus the stock head from 2011-2022 being 22.50, because there's a slightly lower compression ratio. It also does help you get away with pump gas even more, even better, because this head can ping a little bit on pump gas, ever so slightly, but for the most part it's safe on pump gas, and that's the reason why they went to that head in 2011 in America, and that's why they used it in Europe since 2003, was for that reason. But so yeah, if you want a mild improvement over the stock head from 2011 to 2022, this MX head will give you a mild improvement, and I believe you can probably run 100% pump gas in this head and actually be kind of okay. It's not going to ping and give you hell. However, the 2006 head, or I'm sorry, the 2003 to 2010 5UP head, that one you do have to mix in a splash of race fuel, at least 40-60. I mean 40% pump, race fuel, and 60% pump fuel, because of the compression ratio being up. Even though the squish band is not that fat, the compression is, it's pretty fat. The compression ratio is pretty, high. So that head is going to require a little bit of a higher octane requirement than both of these two heads, the 5MW and the Apex head with the MX dome. And then of course you got the custom head, mine at 40 thousandths, and that one I pretty much have to run 50-50 in it, or it will ping, but it makes the most power, as you can see on my professional dyno graph here. It makes the most power out of all these heads. It's the broadest peak as far as the power band. When you finally get to the full power of the bike, and then where it finally starts to sign off, it's the broadest in that range. And it comes on early. As you saw in the video, I don't know if we elaborated on it or not, but my modified head, right away when you start the bike and you touch the throttle, it follows your hand. It almost thinks faster than your hand as you're twisting. It's like right there. It sounds like a race bike. It feels like a race bike, and right away. Matter of fact, Josh, when he started the bike up, first thing he said was he could tell right away something was different. That he could feel the head right away. I forgot exactly how he worded it, but he was like, "Oh man, I can feel this," and I said, "Yeah, the head, and it follows your hand." And so, that's going to be the difference. Now, as you know, we have not tested out the Apex head, the SX model. Josh says that that's the one that everyone's telling him that is the head to buy. We haven't tested that out yet, and I'm looking forward to testing that out. Apex, on their website, they said that this head was at 50,000 squish band clearance, and as you see in the video, that is what I found it at, was 50 thousandths. So I expect their SX head that they claim to be 50 thousandths as well to be 50 thousandths. So I do still expect it to make less power overall than my custom head. However, what I'm curious about is the compression ratio, what the CCs are at. If they have the compression ratio, and I assume it's higher because it's supposed to be their Supercross head, if they have it somewhere around here, it's going to be a pretty decent head, but we won't know till we try. It won't be quite as powerful as this one, but it's going to have the same characteristics, and it's going to be pretty good, pretty close. So, the way I look at it is here's how I look at squish band clearances. I look at it like this. A squish band clearance of 50 thousandths, I consider that stage 1. Like if you're dealing with camshafts in the car, or something, or on a bike. 40 thousandths is stage 2, which that's what I have my custom head at, and 50 thousandths is what the Apex head comes at. And then 30 thousandths is stage 3. That's like all out race bike. That's from what I hear, that's what they used to run in like Ricky Carmichael's RM250, which, as you know, that has the same bore and stroke as the YZ250, very similar motor. So I have put together a head with a 30 thousandths squish band clearance, and it made a ton of power. It was the fastest 252 stroke I've ever ridden. However, it does come with increased maintenance at that point. At the 30 thousandths, you're going to pound away harder at your lower rod bearing, and it kind of, you know, wears through pistons a little quicker. But that's a full race bike for you. I found 40 thousandths. I seem to get pretty much the same wear characteristics as, you know, 50 or 60 thousandths. It doesn't. It seems like it doesn't really start hammering on the motor, at least from what I can see, until you get down to 30 thousandths. But boy, do they run at that! And at that point, you do have to run 100% race feel, and you do have to run a shorty silencer to cure the pinging. You can't miss out on either of them two. You will need a shorty silencer, and you will need 100% race feel to run 30 thousandths. And I just don't use it because I get enough power out of 40 thousandths and with less wear and tear. So that's why I stick with that. But that's how I look at heads. So that being said, if the Apex head with the SX dome comes with a 50,000 squish, that's going to be a stage 1 head right here. And then the compression ratio they will choose where it's going to focus its power, more down on this end or more up here on this end, on the top end. So that's, you know, as soon as I get one of them heads in my hand, I will do a review on it. Josh said that he's going to get one here shortly, but you know, sometimes he can take a little bit of time with things. So if any of you guys have one out there, a Apex head with the SX dome, and you want to mail it to me for a review, I will mail it back to you. Don't worry. I would like to get a review on that. Main thing, I'm really interested in the CCs. And if you don't want to mail it to me, if you want to follow how I CC'd the head and just let us know what the CCs are, that would be really interesting to know. So I generally know what I'm dealing with in that head, what we can expect. And if you're counting ounces, this head right here is 18 point. I'm sorry. Let me walk you over there. Alright, ignore my dirty scale here, but it works. I got it set on ounces, so. Alright, the stock head weighs 14.9 ounces. The Apex head weighs 18.6 ounces. So this one weighs a little bit more. If you're counting ounces, that's something to consider. And another thing, this is what I consider, is just the looks. I mean, some people might like that blocky head. I'm not a big fan of it myself. It kind of looks a little weird on the bike. I wish these aftermarket head manufacturers will make heads that look at least a little more stock in the profile, and not be so blocky and big. It honestly looks like it sticks out like a sore thumb when it's on top of your motor. But that's just my opinion. Sorry, Apex, don't get mad at me. That's just how I feel about it. It's just a little big and blocky and a little weird looking. I think these look better and cleaner, but that's my opinion. And the extra weight. I mean, who wants to add weight? I know it's not much, but it's still extra. And as they say, if you don't pay attention to the ounces, you'll be crying about the pounds. If you haven't seen my video on doing the head modification at home on your own, I highly suggest checking that one out. Even if you don't plan on doing a head modification yourself, there's a lot of information in there that can help you get up to speed with how all these little changes affect the power characteristics. I'll put a link down in the description, and if you want to check that video out, the free head mod. And I'm looking forward to testing the XC dome that he sent me as well. I think it's in here. But I tell you why. On the motocross track where I just got done feeling that head, my modified head, and the Apex head with the SX dome, I might have given this one a bad review. It's just the wrong environment for it. I want to take this dome, the XC dome, out to like Croom, a wooded area, and just do some real trail riding on it, and put it in the environment that it was actually designed to be in, and do the review on that. So stay tuned for that. I will be doing an Apex head review on the XC dome. And a shout out to Kelly for sending me this head to do the review on. I really appreciate it. I hope you don't mind me keeping it about another 3 or 4 more weeks so I can get a review in on this XC. And also another shout out to Josh Hodges for helping me with this review, so we can get two opinions on it, because otherwise it might have seemed like I was just nut hugging my own head. But you know, it's nice to get a review from someone else, and I was really looking forward to hearing what other people thought about this head too, as well as I was testing it out. So I appreciate you coming out today and being out there and helping out with the review. Well, I appreciate you guys sitting through this with me. You can see my bike is still dirty from riding Family 74 today. It was a good day watching this. And click like and subscribe and the notification bell if you like this kind of stuff. I'll be keeping these reviews going and videos on how to repair your bike, and just geeking out on some motocross stuff, mainly mechanical stuff, but also suspension and everything like that. I'll catch you guys later.